Why looking poor is important. Why looking poor is important. Why looking poor is important. Why looking poor is actually smart. Why looking poor is important. Why looking poor is important. Why looking poor is important in 2025. Why looking poor is important for Americans in 2020. Why looking poor is Why looking poor is important. 5 lessons in quiet wealth. Why looking poor can be your best decision. Did you notice the pattern? For the last year, this trend has been bopping around. It feels like every personal finance channel, and I didn't like it. I couldn't really say why. But now that I've had some time to think about it, I think I figured out why looking important actually isn't poor. Wait, no. Why looking poor actually isn't important. So let's talk about it. I'm Ben with the YNAB team, and this is sketchy advice. My mother-in-law made this for Lachlan. It's a little Loch Ness monster, and like, how cute is that, right? You can just hang out here. I'm just gonna be talking. So just right out the gate, these videos have always made me feel a little icky. There's a reason everybody is copying this title. It's because it's taking this conception that you have of a poor person and doing something counterintuitive with that. When a lot of us think of a poor person, we're probably imagining someone we wouldn't really want to look like or necessarily be like, which is definitely an assumption worth interrogating all its own. Yeah, I actually am gonna interrogate that a little bit. It just kept striking me like how much is going on with this word poor that comes up over and over in the video. And I just wanted to unpack a few things here, just to give you a better sense of where I'm coming from. I don't use words like poor or broke very often in my videos. I don't think they're very helpful most of the time. I think it's much more helpful to focus on people's personal goals because one, it's a super fuzzy kind of imprecise term. Like we all have kind of a vibe of what poor means, but like, what does it mean? What are we talking about? Are we talking about just people who struggle, people who can't afford an emergency, people who make a certain amount of income, people who live above or below the poverty line, people who look a certain way? It gets really weird really fast. And I talk about this a bit, but just to be very clear, one thing that these videos do, I think, is they're playing on a particular idea of poor. Because when they say looking poor, they're trying to draw some kind of visual contrast in your brain. I'm sure that a lot of the people you know that are actually struggling financially look pretty like normal to you. So when we talk about like looking poor, it's much easier to jump to an image of a person whose clothes might look tattered, they might look dirty, their hair might look long and unkempt or whatever. And that makes me really uncomfortable because a lot of people who look like that are in really unfortunate circumstances. But the words poor or broke are often used in kind of this derogatory way in personal finance, where it's about, well, you made this series of choices that led you to your just ruin. And that does not feel helpful to me. It actually feels really stigmatizing and really like uncompassionate towards people who are having a very hard time. And as I explain later in this video, I feel like these videos are really kind of using that image as like a prop to get across a few personal finance points. And that feels really icky to me. So for the rest of this video, whenever I say the word poor, I just flash it on the screen with quotation marks on it as kind of a reminder that this is a really tricky term that's loaded with all kinds of not great stuff. It's fuzzy. It can be very judgmental and shaming, and I just think it's worth bearing that in mind when we're having these kinds of flippant personal finance discussions about it. And also as a reminder that the way I talk about things on this channel, the words I use matter. And if you ever hear me talking about something, you're just like, that ain't it, please let me know. I have blind spots. I have need to grow, and I need other people's eyes, other people's voices to help me do that. So I hope you'll do that for me. I'm gonna get back to the video now. Thank you for hanging out in my closet. But then these videos pop up and say, rich guys say look poor good, actually. And you go, huh. That's me whenever I see an interesting thumbnail on YouTube. Huh. Some thumbnails even kind of lean into this dissonance, which I just really don't like at all. Then you click on this thumbnail and it turns out they're not actually talking about looking poor. Like half of these videos have a line like this.
I'm not talking about looking raggedy, looking dirty, looking distraught, looking disheveled all the time. That's not what I'm talking about.
Like you need to look poor, but don't like actually look like actually poor. That's gross. See what I mean? Like, I know this is clickbait for the algorithm game, but I feel weird that we're using these dynamics of rich and poor and playing on this idea of like, but poor people, they look bad. And then the twist is that we're turning this into like some secret hidden virtue. Especially because, again, these videos are not actually about looking poor. It's about not being ostentatious with your wealth. Don't go around peacocking. Like what do peacocks sound like? Yeah, don't do that. That's weird. Look at my Rolex. And that point, I think, is totally fair. If you're pouring money into these big displays of wealth so that other people see that you have money, that you're successful, that you've made it, that's just a waste of money. Because actually, nobody cares. Morgan Housel calls this the man in the car paradox. Like, you imagine that if you drive up in a Lambo, people will go, wow, that guy is cool. But what actually happens is people go, wow, I wish that I had a car like that so that people would think that I'm cool. Do you see what I did with the thumbs up there? Nobody looks at the driver. Nobody cares about the driver. People do not think about you or me nearly as much as we think they do. Like, I did something called the 100-Day Challenge through Woolen Prints, where I wore one of their shirts for 100 days. And you would think that when you wear the exact same thing every day, eventually somebody would go, whoa, have you been wearing the same shirt every day? Nobody cared. Nobody even noticed. 100 days of doing this. Not a peep. Nobody cares if you look rich. So you don't need like ruby encrusted croc charms to make people notice. They won't. So point taken. But then all these influencers are basically just advocating for dressing a way that a lot of people already dress and driving a Toyota instead of a Tesla, which is poor, I guess. It feels very weird to me to classify how a lot of very middle-class people live as looking poor. To me, and maybe I'm off base, but it feels like you're taking pretty standard behavior and you're just trying to like elevate the virtue of it. When you buy a Honda Civic, you're not just buying a sensible car, you're adopting a millionaire stealth wealth mindset. And you're being extremely humble and brave. Maybe this is too far. But it kind of feels like we're saying some people look poor because of their bad choices, but you want to look poor because of your good choices. And also don't actually look poor. And it's especially weird that people talk about this like this is the mindset of true millionaires. And then they're like, Warren Buffett has lived in the same house for decades. And did you know Jeff Bezos drives a Honda Civic? Why are we holding this up as evidence of anything? These men did not get to where they are because of their frugality. Maybe some millionaires, over time did, but like not these guys. They are not maintaining their wealth by not buying designer brands. And I just don't understand why in the personal finance space, we keep using like billionaires and millionaires as examples of what you should be doing with your day-to-day life choices. I guarantee most people have absolutely nothing to learn from the day-to-day spending habits of Jeff Bezos. These videos are like, you don't need to dress or drive or whatever a certain way in order to buy the approval or envy of other people. It's just not worth it. But then they follow it up with, because this is what real rich people do. We were just talking about how like, it doesn't matter what other people buy or do. And then we're like, but do you know what the millionaires do? Not to mention we're potentially adding this layer of judgment now. Like if you buy anything flashy, like, ooh, are you just doing that for the Joneses? I don't know, man. Sometimes it's nice to own nice things. I didn't spend $300 on Cthulhu Wars because I was trying to look poor. And I did do it a little bit because it looks really nice and people go, ooh, when I pull it out. And that's fun. That's nice. And it's just like, guys, we don't have to do this. Okay, it's not that complicated. We don't have to obsess over like the secrets of the rich. Figure out what you enjoy. If you can, make room in your finances to spend more money on that thing you enjoy. Dress the way you want to dress. Drive the car that makes sense for you. If you want to buy something flashy, just make sure that your other priorities are covered and okay. And if they are, and this would really bring you joy, then who cares what it looks like? Who cares what millionaires do? Like, I don't wear one shirt because that's like a virtuous thing to do or because there's some magical special sauce in that. I don't like doing laundry that much. And I like just knowing that the shirt I'm going to put on is something I look good in and feel good in. That's it. But Maddie has really gotten into experimenting with her wardrobe and combining pieces to make new and unique looks. And no, she doesn't go to the mall every day and come home with a whole new closet of clothes. Honestly, most of her best outfits are hand-me-downs from her grandma in Western Kansas. Apparently grandma was just breaking necks in the 1950s. I don't know. But when she does buy new clothes, I'm not like, but have you considered the virtue of only one? It makes her happy. We have a plan. She would not like to do what I'm doing, and I would not like to do what she's doing. There's no special sauce in either thing. It's just preferences. And like, hey, every personal finance person on YouTube, preferences don't need to be prescriptions. They just don't. Trust me, it is not important to look poor. You do not need to look poor. Looking like you is way better.